Come on, Ryan. It's time for podcast. Get your shoes on.
Come on. Go on.
Now time for stuff. Come on.
How many people are watching this right now? I'm going to check the stats.
134.
Let's not.
Yes, 134.
Oh,
Let's make that 140.
You know
let's look,
You-
the Ryan Shrout
predicted this.
effect. He's here. Founder
You
of
predicted
this
134.
podcast.
if we can get 150, I'll go topless.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
Okay. All right, that's dangerous. Brett will get some more sternly worded emails.
And it instantly
saying-
drops to 110.
Yeah.
No,
Or we go to 10,000
It
and
dropped
it's
to
really
131
disturbing.
after you said that, Josh. Okay.
It's funny.
Exactly.
Nobody.
I get the letters that are the equivalent of the internet neighbor saying, cut it out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the PC Perspective Podcast. We've reached episode 747. So it's November 1. It's a new month already. 2023. I'm Sebastian P.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Van Spoonberg.
I'm Ryan Shrout. I know how to podcast still.
Yeah, he does.
I can do it. Hi, everybody.
He doesn't have the high LPR 40 in front of him anymore, but
I don't. You know, I've still got to go through some storage and see what other stuff I could find. I had to make a Best Buy run last week and find like a microphone that wasn't a headset for Teams meetings quality venture. So,
Yeah.
so what do you guys been doing for the last 5 years?
this basically we haven't stopped for some reason.
Kind of
Okay.
decomposing a bit.
Slowly, yeah. Hopefully slowly,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Shorter and wider.
feel that.
Slowly.
Just being
Collecting a lot
dynamic
of PC
people.
parts.
We have a lot of energy, and we're up late on a Wednesday night, so we're like, hey, let's just keep doing the podcast so we get to like
I told Kelly, I was like, I think I'm gonna jump on the podcast tonight, the PCPer podcast. I was like, don't you remember Wednesdays at 10 p.m. for most of every day you've ever known, every week you've ever known me for my entire life until the last 5 years? She kind of rolled her eyes and put the kids to bed, and here I am.
Hey, at least you're not doing it under protest, I guess.
Correct. Yes.
All right.
So what do you do your Wednesday nights?
Wow. You know,
It's got to be weird.
if I weren't, well, for the first little bit, it was very weird, actually. Now I just kind of, I don't know, drink a beer and watch basketball or something.
It's
Okay, let's show off.
like we'd
That's
be
fine.
doing.
Fair.
Wish I could take a week off, but no, that's not the way it works.
Yeah, no.
All right, so you can support PC Perspective and everything
should.
we do here.
You should support PC
Yes,
Perspective.
give us money. Go to patreon.com/PCPer. That's PCPer. I'm not going to tell you how to spell Patreon. Google
It
it.
doesn't have to be a lot. It could be a little. But if a lot of people do it, it becomes a lot.
Hey, if 1 million people give us $1,
That's
$1 million.
correct.
That's
It
the
is
math I
crazy.
can do in my head. Special shout out to Pete, a great guy, if he does say so himself, and Keish STI.
No, before we leave Pete behind,
Okay.
Pete actually did hit the level of special message from Josh.
Oh,
but I did
okay,
not
okay.
pre-warn Josh that this was
Oh.
coming. So I'm going to shelve that, and we're going to
Why?
come in next week.
I like putting people on
and
the
Josh is-
spot.
Nah. Well,
What was his name again? What was
Pete.
his name again?
It's Pete.
A great
He's a great
guy.
guy.
A great guy.
Pete. I'm assuming that's short for Peter, unless I'm not going to go there. Peter O'Toole. That was almost two things that's the same. I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's not in a good place. But we appreciate you, Pete. No matter what kids called you in middle school.
Well said.
He calls himself a great guy now, so he's making up for it.
It's positive affirmation. He says it every day.
It's
In the mirror.
It's
I'm a great guy.
affirmation. It is.
I am a great
People
guy.
love
Great
me.
guy.
I'm a strong man.
People like me.
We need to get down to business.
We are-
Number
we are
one
diva.
segment of the
Sorry.
week, as all devoted podcast listeners know, is actually Josh. Please tell us about food that you ate recently.
Oh, well,
Highest rated,
you know what?
highest rated segment.
I've been waiting for a new special, and it was the green chili mac and cheese again, and I don't like mac and cheese that much. I just don't. I mean, I struggled through the Nashville hot mac and cheese, but that was a special, so I had to get the naughty. And the naughty came out fantastic today. So it's the dual quarter-pound patties. Perfectly done. I substituted cheddar for American because it's supposed to be American, but I'm just not a big American cheese fan. I mean, sure, it melts fine. But
I like you even more now,
cheddar.
Josh.
Yeah, and then it's got a sriracha ketchup with bacon and fresh cut jalapenos. So it's got a nice little kick to it. The cheese was perfect. The fries came out nicely as well. And those jalapenos, they just
is this a thumbprint in the bun, Josh?
Yes.
probably
You're
because you know
eagerly
what? It was
grasping
wrapped
it.
up.
You're like, no, I got to take a picture first.
Yeah. No.
What about the fries?
Fries were good. Yeah, they were nicely done. I don't know what they fry it in. I mean,
Oil, probably.
you could obviously, yeah, but I think
Yeah,
they fry it in
Peanut oil?
the same stuff as they do the chicken wings, and so they've got an interesting flavor to them that like McDonald's fries do not. I probably prefer to have slightly thicker McDonald's fries than these ones, but they're still pretty good.
McDonald's fries are significantly underrated in my view. Continuously,
They are quite good.
Let's move to the PC Perspective news desk, and our top story is not Intel Arc news for some reason. Is there any? I guess it's just a placeholder that we're always supposed to go there first.
Yeah.
Instead,
Keeping it.
What's ARC?
it's this. It's like the third.
This
wheel of
upstart
the
company
GPU
is trying
industry.
to muscle into the GPU business.
Oh.
It's like a skunk.
It was like a
works.
bunch of Intel i740s all put together.
Oh, they taped them together. I see.
Wait, was
Yeah.
that Larrabee?
But
No, that's different.
smaller.
That was x86.
Them.
Smaller, little. They're very little. Small.
Intel doesn't
It's definitely
glue
not the
anything.
cell architecture, though.
No, AMD glues. Intel uses
Okay.
industry-leading
Okay.
packaging technology.
Yes.
Arc,
They use a
like
via
Noah's Arc.
pass through via pass-throughs. It's new tech.
Via? Yeah, I can get behind
VIA
that.
Technologies has been around forever. They're still around.
Yeah.
I actually
Yeah.
just saw.
Centaur.
I saw a post from Richard Brown just yesterday. Josh,
Oh, really?
actually.
Oh,
It
geez.
was,
I haven't seen. Yeah, I follow him on Twitter as well. I see a few things from him now and then.
But we're going to talk about new and emerging technology. Well, kind of. We're going to talk about
Exciting.
November 2022's announced CPU cores, which are now part of the Snapdragon X Elite product, which is being showcased in October of 2023. To be shipped mid next year, mind you. So there will be product from various vendors. Now, AnonTech, Ryan Smith reporting, was one of those people, and I've been in a room like this. I'm sure Ryan has as well. You go and you sit with other media types, and you have engineers around you, and there's engineering samples. In this case here, you see these lovely red laptops. Only this time, it's kind of the white glove treatment. They were actually running the benchmarks for the media. Media was not allowed to go hands-on.
No self-serve. It's just full service.
Which is the way it should be. I mean, you get
you
to the
consider
gas
that white
station.
glove?
It's like
Right.
pumping gas in New Jersey.
So Snapdragon X Elite, we saw the performance claims when they were announcing the product. Now media got their hands on some machines. And as you can see here, the Geekbench Windows scores, they give you an expected range of single and multi-thread. So those are a little bit lower than the scores they were showing initially because they were running previously on a custom Linux kernel, very highly optimized, which is kind of the way it should be. If you think about it, Apple has this custom kernel, custom ARM
Everything.
product, but
The way it was described to me really is that the Linux testing was meant to compare like core performance versus core performance, kind of at the lowest level possible. And then the Windows data that they gave was really to compare against AMD and Intel at a platform level. That's why I think if you look at it, the Linux data was all single core. I think that's right. And then all the multi-core and other benchmarks were Windows.
Okay. I knew they did that. I knew they did Windows for efficiency testing, but of course, everything in here in this article from Ryan Smith is all Windows. So I'm curious about the Windows build. Is this the 23H2?
I'm sure it's a forward version of that. Right, that is more architecture aware and everything like that. Like, I don't know anything about. They didn't go into much detail in the architecture and all everything. So, but I'm sure it's different than other CPUs. So they've got to have a custom design for that.
But not like they did with the original Surface, because that was just the winner.
No. I mean,
that was just horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, we're still, would you say, Sebastian, 6 months out, 8 months out, or something like that?
That's what they're saying, right? And there's a story I linked to, I'll show next, about partners. Apparently, there's a bunch of partners on board jumping on the ARM bandwagon. So that does sound like Microsoft there's some momentum behind this time. But one interesting aspect, by the way, of the specs, since it's up on the screen, I don't hear a lot of people talking about the RAM that was used. They're using LPDDR5X 8533.
Yeah, I mean, nothing else ships with memory that fast today, right? So I assume this is, again, kind of a leading technology that they expect to be more widely available and probably lower cost in that time frame.
And 80 watts for that TDP, although doesn't seem to scale. Like some of the numbers from the lower wattage part were very close. So linear.
Well, I've kind of noticed that that's kind of been true forever. That's why AMD and Intel all had, Atoms and the Jaguar cores, because you design it for that efficiency, and then you would apply, more power to it, and it eventually gets to a spot where it just doesn't get any faster. So
and those TDPs, by the way, are whole platform, not just SoC, right? And so you got to think of, there's a CPU only workload. You got to assume they were. You got to plan for some CPU, some GPU, some NPU workloads, all, kind of encompassing that. Doesn't surprise me too much that it doesn't scale tremendously in everything. I just think it's interesting that it does scale at all, right? Like all the Windows on ARM or Windows on Snapdragon stuff previously was, there was no differentiation between platforms and designs and thermals and clock speeds and anything like that. So it's definitely a different world this time.
And it should work better for Microsoft than it did the first time they tried to standardize everything across all of their stuff. I hope.
I mean, that's the hope, right? A lot of that work falls on Microsoft, so we'll see.
Oh, boy.
They've got resources.
Well, then why am I beta testing Intune and Teams for them?
Okay.
Hey, as somebody pointed out in the chat, they can also emulate x86 on ARM reasonably well.
Apple does a reasonably good job of that themselves, don't they?
They do.
Indeed.
Rosetta
They do.
2. Is that what it's called?
Well, I mean, it's been 20 years since Transmeta came out with their technology. I mean, you got to think that software has improved dramatically over the years.
Oh, I remember Transmeta.
In my thought on this stuff was really like the first wave of these Windows on Snapdragon devices were really, really interesting. They weren't great, but they were super interesting, and they had some key advantages. The battery life was amazing on them, and I really liked that every device had 4G connections on it if you wanted to integrate them, but they had performance problems, right? This is meant to address the performance problems. They've got a long way to go to prove that out beyond the 7 benchmarks that they showed everybody. But, I got to imagine, I don't know, Josh, were you surprised to see the performance of these Orion cores?
Huh?
No, just because, I mean, the Cairo stuff that Qualcomm has been designing kind of on their own, they were always step above what was kind of more. I think there's a wild animal in Jeremy's room.
Oh no.
Anyway, the Cairo stuff was I think it was Cairo, right?
Yeah,
Their
Cryo
own
or Cairo. I don't know what
Cairo.
letters.
Anyway, one of those Cryo. I don't know. But yeah, they were always faster than the licensed kind of full designs from ARM. So they had the Cortex A9 and Qualcomm had their own, and there was a 15 to 20% difference in overall performance. And I was going a little bit back and forth with you on Twitter, and something that I've been thinking about when ARM makes these designs. They kind of, make a little bit of the Lego type. You can add X amount of cores here and you can have this flexibility. And sometimes the cost of that flexibility is increased latency. And it's just not, stuff isn't as tightly coupled as a, singular type design that Intel would do or AMD. And it kind of seems like Qualcomm, threw a bunch of that kind of stuff away and made a more focused design. So, that performance really seems like it's there because anything it kills performance in a CPU is internal latency, and when you have a more generalized framework, it's what the C6 and I can't remember all of the acronyms that they have for that stuff. The more general you make it, the slower it kind of is because it's just not optimized for a specific workload. It's optimized for flexibility. And so it's kind of nice to see that it looks to be a well-performing part, and can't wait to eventually get hands on it and see where
This
it
is
goes.
what they spent. Would they spend $2 billion for Nuvia, something like that? Right.
Sounds
because
right.
Apple spent how much for PA Semi, and they've been making very focused parts.
This is a very big acquisition at the time.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. That was impressive.
I think they got their money's worth.
They certainly did.
It's interesting to me that they went with the 12 performance cores.
Yeah, when you're dealing with any kind of compiler and low-level kernel stuff, routing. Big Little is in the Linux and Android space, and now does Apple has efficiency cores as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do.
That it's still it's better than it was, but there's a reason why AMD's cores kind of do really well in most things because it doesn't have to shift around performance, and you've got cache locality and all this other stuff that you don't have to worry you don't have to worry about when you have homogeneous type cores and similar cache sizes across the entire chip.
So one of the biggest hurdles obviously is adoption. It doesn't matter if you have a great platform if you don't have any vendors supplying laptops with your SoC. But according to this PC World article, 9 PC makers have identified themselves as partners for the Snapdragon X Elite. So this begs the question also, can anybody ship anything but a Qualcomm SoC with Windows on ARM? There was a couple years ago, there was a story.
The answer is that is no.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way I don't know this for sure, but I assume that the discussion had to have been, Microsoft wants some silicon diversity in their landscape. Qualcomm raises their hand and says we can help that, but if we're going to invest billions of dollars in R&D, you've got to make sure that we have some window of time to ramp up. Now, they launched in 2016. Is that right? 2016. Yeah. With the very first, I think of Snapdragon 835 at the time on Windows. And let's be very honest, they have 0% market share. So they've kind of wasted 6 years of whatever this window is. So I think I've been told it goes to 2025 to or through 2025 that they have this exclusive to build ARM-based SoCs for Windows. After that, I don't know what happens. I don't know if they can renew it, if other people come into the fold, but they kind of have to get this right this generation.
Well, let's not bring up x86 licensing as an example of what could happen.
I don't know what could happen. It was all Windows RT fault. That's all it is, Windows RT. It was the Windows XP 64 of its time. Or dare I say, the Windows ME.
Wait, I thought XP64 was good.
You can't really insult Windows ME, but you just did. You just managed to insult Windows ME. Because I supported a couple of those surfaces in a corporate environment, and one thing they couldn't run was Microsoft products.
Yeah, RT was challenging because of just its own lack of internal support. They killed it themselves.
There's a different word. I'm not going to use it, but yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I think to your story, the partner support is super important. You've got to have some design wins. You've got to have some OEMs and partners that are willing to go take it out to the world. You got to have the Best Buys, Costco's of the world willing to put it on shelves to sell it. So that's going to be super critical for them. I think the 8CX Gen 2, there's only one laptop that has that chipset. I think it's a Lenovo machine. It's hard to get any traction if you've got one machine that's only available on Lenovo.com. It doesn't sell in retail. It doesn't sell to mainstream consumers. So they have to get past that for sure. And there were a lot of CEO or executive vice president video walk-ons during that presentation that I think give me some hope that they'll have that support this time.
I don't know. Microsoft could just say, you know what, we're just going all ARM like Apple. We're gonna be on a unified platform.
There's something to be said about instruction. An instruction set where they're all the same size. It makes decoding so much more
cheating.
Quick.
You've talked about this before, Brett. Can you please, cheating. For the layperson, can you just explain in a few words how it is that ARM64 is so efficient and why you can get great performance from what would almost be deemed the mobile part?
The instruction part that I've talked about before has to do with the low-level computing engine of the CPU that's actually executing the instructions: move, copy, manipulate memory, fetch, load, all of the very low-level instructions. Unfortunately, Intel has had to carry this different multiple-sized instructions for its entire life. So the instruction decoder, as it's running a program, has to decide the length of the instruction, and it takes very small amount of time, but it adds up as the billions and billions of instructions are executed to figure out how to load lines and how to keep them properly loaded and executing at the highest speed. ARM doesn't necessarily suffer from that because all the instructions are the same size. So decoding and actually executing these seemingly low-level instructions, such as fetch, load, store, multiply, add, very low-level instructions are actually faster on the ARM chip than Intel chips in this respect, simply because they're quicker to decode and execute. So it's fairly simple once you understand it.
So there's shorter pipeline in the architecture as well as just like
it's easier to load the pipelines because the instructions are all the same size.
But with complex instructions, though, I mean, you get a little bit more flexibility and potentially you can pack more instructions in there. But anyway,
actually, Intel harder. Has an architecture that can scale all the way up to 10 gigahertz, Josh. And all you do is you just lengthen the pipeline. But then as nodes shrink, you can increase the clock speeds as well.
I don't know if you guys have heard, but 5 nodes in 4 years, I think it solves all the problems, so we can just move on.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
How big are those nodes again?
Also,
how big is 10? How big is 7? I can't.
It's a new litho technology that they want to introduce as well.
Wait. Never mind.
It's this big.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. They're 3D, so it's really this by this. It's about like that. Yeah.
Where do you measure it from? Is it the inside? Is it the inside or the outside?
You got to have one of those tape measures that has like the wiggly front end, so you can push it against or pull, and you get the accurate.
Next in news, Apple kind of made all of Qualcomm's stuff irrelevant, I guess. That was their plan. Industry's first 3-nanometer chips for a personal computer debut. next generation GPU architecture. I didn't pay attention to that part. Brad, I'm sure you know all the speeds and feeds on this, being a devout Apple evangelist.
All that's true, and I would love to be of great service to the many hundreds and hundreds of people that will watch this podcast that are really big Mac fans. Unfortunately, I am not going to be able to make your dreams come true this evening because
you're under a DA.
I was unable to catch this. I was unable to catch this. Yeah, so
let's see. They seated you early, and you can't talk yet. I get it. So M3 has been announced to replace M2. M3 Pro, interesting twist there. We'll talk about in a moment, and then M3 Max. So one of the things they weren't really doing during their very action-packed event was discuss M2 Pro versus M3 Pro performance.
Yeah, because that gets weird in the M3 Max.
Do they actually talk about it in here?
Well,
because they cut down
family.
They cut down the architecture a little bit, the memory subsystem.
Yeah, they never say that.
Okay, so
as far as we go,
but the math, the math.
In our
M2
tests,
Pro,
the various M2 series GPUs are generally between 25 and 30% faster than their M1 equivalents. And they're saying that the peak GPU performance for the M3 series is up to 65% faster than the M1s. But they don't want to do this M2, M3 thing. They sort of elude it.
Yeah, it's with M2 Pro, you had a 256-bit memory interface. And with M3 Pro, they cut it down to 192. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a new graphics architecture, apparently. So
it's got hardware ray tracing and mesh shaders integrated for the first time.
Yes.
So they basically pulled NVIDIA. Because NVIDIA, this generation, it's except for the 4090, it's reduced memory bus width, but higher performance, dedicated hardware to handle things like ray tracing. So, I don't know. How many
really
mesh shader applications are there for the Mac again?
Well, we're going to want to know if this plays Alan Wake 2 eventually. So
that's what I'm saying.
Anyway,
they've got all this unified memory. You get 128 gigabytes of memory now.
Yeah, I wrote that on the story I did for Market Watch.
Let me pull that one.
They talked about all this great GPU stuff, massive performance improvements and ray tracing, and then they showed the Myst remake as one of the demos, and I was like, cool, guys, you really get it. You really understand.
You nailed it.
Gaming.
Wait, would this be the article called Apple's new Mac laptops aren't good enough to keep buyers from switching to PCs?
I don't make the titles, but probably.
Oh, okay. You didn't do the title.
That's it. I'm not allowed to make the titles.
Apple leaves the door wide open for AMD, Qualcomm, Intel, and others to offer better and faster technology.
I would also know if it were me putting this article in the thing, I know that that's not the Intel logo anymore, and I'm not allowed. I wouldn't be allowed to use that logo.
Oh no, that's wrong.
That's out of compliance.
Old branding.
Market Watch.
Yeah. Yeah, someone pasted that together on GIMP in 30 seconds.
Wait. Don't give away all my secrets. That's how I run.
How do you think I do things?
Yeah.
So what do you think about the whole entry level versus normal M3?
Say more. What do you mean?
So they're releasing two versions of each chip. So there's like an M3, but there's an M3 entry level.
What?
With a couple of GPU cores, just...
they did that last.
They just got different SKUs of it type of thing, yeah.
So they're just going to keep doing this, are they?
You buy an iMac, and the M1, it's really fast. The iMac is great. It's got a beautiful 4.5K screen. I used one of those for a little while, tested it out, thought it was fantastic. But you've got to pay a premium to get little extras like an Ethernet port and... 2 extra USB-Cs on the back.
Yeah.
More than 8 gigabytes of system RAM.
Use something.
I/O lines were at a real premium on that early gen, so that was fair in my opinion.
All the I think now all the MacBook Pros are the same physical design. M2 to M3, they're all the same physical design. There's a 14 and there's a 16 chassis. They got the same number of ports. Whether or not you get a 14 with an M3, an M3 Pro, or an M3 Max. I think that's the case.
Aren't they dumping the ribbon though?
Yeah, the ribbon is completely gone now. So
Touch bar is gone.
Never introduced it. Yeah, Touch bar's gone. They've got this cool space black color. Yeah, space black.
MKBHD approved.
Yep.
Yep.
And, there's some things like the M3 still only supports one external display, but the M3 Pro supports 2 and the M3 Max supports 4.
Ryan, is that because the M3 Max is just 2 of their chips glued together?
No, that's the Ultra. The Ultra was 2 Maxes glued together to use.
Okay. So you'd have 4 displays maybe on that one.
Yeah, I think the Max already does 4 on the M3 series. So I don't know. The Max is like a 40-core GPU or up to a 40-core GPU. They're in, 92 billion transistors or
92 billion.
Yes, just insane.
Freaking crazy.
I remember back in 2000 at Comdex, I visited NVIDIA, and the GeForce 3 was still, it was going to be launched in 4 months from then. And Mike Hara had a meeting with me, and he's like, oh, yeah, next one's almost 60 million transistors. And that was just amazing for the time because it was so many transistors.
We're beyond 1,000 times that.
That's insane.
Well, look, I think my take on this one is I think the M2 was kind of a dud. Didn't really sell very well. Didn't offer a whole lot of improvement. So they didn't launch the M2 until just the M2 Pro came out in January. So it's only been 9.5 months. No, I'm sorry. I can do math. 10 months. And then they launched the whole family all at once. It's the first time they've ever done that. So I think they're trying to juice up Mac. They've got their earnings reporting on Thursday, so tomorrow as we record this. So you'll get some good indication about how bad, or if bad at all, has their Mac division fallen over the last year or so.
Plus, as Steve Burke would probably say, more bigger number better. So because M3 is more than M2, it looks more attractive to the buying public. So.
Except the thing you kept trying to allude to that we kept interrupting you, Sebastian, was that the M3 Pro walks back specs of the M2 Pro in some ways.
M2 Pro was too good. They were giving you too much for your money, and they're reconsidering it. They're looking at products like the Mac Studio and saying, why are we selling this? $2,000
That's performance scores for you. That's performance scores.
And I think some of it is it's a new process node. It's probably very expensive. I'm sure they do the same thing that all these other chip companies do, is they look at, what the yield curve looks like. How many of these can we make if we have 6 performance cores instead of 8? Right? Oh, it turns out we can make 13% more of, have 13% more good wafers or something, or more good die on this wafer if we do that. And they said, hey, that seems to make sense. People just buy our stuff regardless, so we'll just do that.
To the tune of single-digit market share, and it's working for them.
So here's the metric that's important to think about. Their market share might be, 15% of the PC space. But then I bet tomorrow when you listen to their call, they'll quote what their percentage of revenue share is in the PC space.
Yeah.
And I bet that's like huge. 60%.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Any more on M3? Or should we move on?
It's the best processor in the world. Everybody should buy 5.
Okay.
There you go.
Apparently that's...
as many glued together as you can fit in.
Market Watch analyst Ryan Shrout, they manipulated his thoughts. Now, that title, it's misleading. He doesn't say buy something else that other things are better. Let's go out and buy an Apple. They're shiny, and they have an Apple logo on them.
What do you think wafer costs? Retail wafer costs of TSMC 3 nanometer. It's got to be 30
20,000?
to 35. Well, I know it's more than 24.
Is it? Okay.
So, but yeah, I would guess, because they were saying 5 and 4 were 24 to 26,000 per wafer.
Ooh. Per wafer?
And yes.
What's the yield on a wafer? How many chips do you get out of that?
Well, that's the key, isn't it?
75 to 90, depending on what you can. Really.
It depends on the size and a bunch of stuff.
Why do these companies sell anything to consumers anymore?
I mean, you're answering the NVIDIA question.
Right? It's like, can I just sell enterprise these $25,000 GPUs? Why would I sell a consumer a GPU at all?
Are we going to talk about the NVIDIA ARM stuff? NVIDIA AMD ARM rumors? Is that
we did last week?
We did that last week.
Okay.
But
my only comment on that was like exactly to this point. NVIDIA has a limited number of wafers that they're going to get at a TSMC. Would they rather sell $10,000 GPUs to Amazon or a $95 CPU to an OEM?
Yeah, on Amazon.
Make a laptop. Yeah, right.
But Samsung is working hard to get NVIDIA back into their fold, and so you got to wonder if maybe I hear Intel has some wafer capacity that they need to sell off.
I've never heard of this company, but I hear that they do good things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To Intel?
Integrated
Technology.
electronics, as I call them.
Oh, integrated electronics. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Ryan, are you going to stick around, or do you want to...
What else do we have to talk about?
Well, Josh is going to talk about
stuff.
financials for like 20
Sure, yeah. I love financials.
Okay.
Dollars.
This is going to be
Oh, you can't listen to the next one.
Okay.
I tell you what, guys. If I suddenly disconnect,
okay. Then
you'll know. I just left.
If you freeze because you're not Josh, that means you're actually gone. Okay.
So, Josh, how much more profit did Intel make now that they fired Ryan?
Hold on. We got to do a transition. No. We got to do a wipe here.
Come on. You got a better one than that?
Build to the payoff. Build to the payoff.
Whatever. I give up. All right. We're in the financial section of the podcast now. Josh and Ryan seem to have some interest in these topics. Intel first. I mean, Intel reported first.
Yeah, okay. They did.
Take it away, Josh.
They didn't do bad, but historically speaking, it wasn't great because even 5-6 years ago, they were doing 16 to 17 billion a quarter, and then they were reaching up, during COVID years of damn near 20 billion plus per quarter, and now they're down to 14.1, and their CEO came out and said this was Pat G. He said this was a triumph for the company, and of course he didn't. In the short term, sure it was because they suffered through some pretty rough quarters for Intel. They were well over 1.5 to $3 billion at the height of net income, and now they're down to 297 million. They've only got 808 million of operating income through all that. Their free cash on hand is not fantastic these days, and then they've acquired quite a bit of debt. So there's a reason why as many people have been let go from Intel across many sectors, including important stuff like the people making the software for their products and compiler engineers and all of these people who actually are those putting the food on their family, so to speak. So, yeah, it was a more positive quarter than it has been over the past year, but they still have a long ways to go. And they've been suffering in data center. They did okay, seemingly, in consumer space. Graphics is still pretty low down there, but things like networking have also taken a hit. It's just, kind of grim right now for them, but they're, seemingly digging out by doing a lot of cost cutting. And that's why we have, what we got. So, yeah, it wasn't a negative quarter. They didn't post a loss, but historically speaking, has not been fantastic. I think what the margins are around 45%. And again, historically speaking, if they're not above 60, they're not happy. And so you're 15 points down from that low bar, that previous low bar. So it's challenging at Intel, and they have a lot of competition in multiple areas that they have not experienced in a long time, and ARM being one of them. They're starting to take some stuff. We're seeing instead of routers using Intel Atom stuff, or they're starting to go to ARM 64 based, less expensive, less power draw for that kind of work. AMD is kicking hard in both CPUs and GPUs, and they're about to release, and we'll go into this a little shortly, their machine learning stuff. They're expecting an extreme ramp there. Intel is just really only getting off the ground there, even though they have great interconnect technology to tie all these things out and a lot of flexibility.
It's industry leading,
there.
Josh.
Industry leading glue, yes.
It's not glue. It's a packaging technology.
It is an advanced packaging technology. Mm-hmm. NVIDIA, of course, is just eating everybody's lunch in the high performance data center with heterogeneous compute. So, no, it's they're keeping afloat. They're doing okay. I wouldn't say it's great. Pat was enthusiastic about it, but that's his job.
That's his job. Yes,
that is certainly his job.
What input would I have here? Probably not a lot. Let me think about what I would want to say.
Yeah, what can you legally say?
We should get back into mobile again. That's what you want to say.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I think what I will say is the market clearly thought that whatever Intel was forward projecting was positive, right? Because the stock went up 9% or something like that the next day. So despite kind of the very accurate description of how the quarterly revenue has gone down quite a bit over the last handful of years, somebody somewhere seems to see some future that is positive in that way. Client space seemed to be the most level. It's the biggest one. It's the one that they kind of need to be the cash cow for the company. You mentioned the networking group, but it's not just networking, Josh. It's the NEX group is networking and edge. So it's kind of all of the edge applications of client products, client CPUs, data center CPUs, and everything too. So it's kind of it's an interesting data set to look at too. Look, I have a lot of.
Do they also consider edge to be like the cellular networks and that that edge?
No, we deprecated edge
because they've taken some big hits there as well in telecommunications.
Next, the way I would think about it is the NEX business group is like something where Intel is trying to present a full solution to a customer, right? So it's not just selling a bare CPU to an OEM. It's here, we've worked with these partners and we've got these full solutions for you to some degree, right? So
that's full forklift upgrade.
Yes,
everything goes out and everything comes in.
Yeah. But I mean, everybody kind of got hit hard, I'd say, over the last year, with the exception of NVIDIA, of course, who's worth $1 trillion. But everybody else.
It all started at Denny's, just in case you didn't know. It was a Denny's.
I tell you what, I've been going to every Denny's near me to try to find smart people sitting around that I can just squeeze in and say, what's the next company we're starting, guys?
So let's talk about Team Red, Josh, which used to be Team Green, really, if you think about it.
Well, they still are kind of Team Green, and maybe they're Team Green with envy, but not so much anymore.
It is.
But not flush with green.
Okay. They are doing pretty decent. So AMD has also had regression in earnings. I mean, they were above $6 billion a quarter, a couple of quarters back, but then, of course, everything kind of dropped. But it did not drop as dramatically for them as their rivals did. Well, except if you count NVIDIA, which is their rivals, but they're the other rivals. No. While Intel was at $14.2 billion, essentially, AMD was at $5.8 billion. And really not that long ago, we were seeing Intel at 15, 16, 17 billion, and AMD was lucky to get 1.7 billion in revenue. So 1/10 of what Intel is, and now they're approaching 1/2. And that's fairly significant. Their gross margins were 47%, so 2 points higher than what Intel had in the previous. And that's, of course, Intel owning a lot of their own fabrication. They didn't do 100% their own. Obviously, Arc Graphics was TSMC 6 nanometer. But all their CPUs, a lot of the specialty stuff, all Intel based. And supposedly, if you keep your factory's running at near 100%, you have really great cost structure built in. But when you're renting wafer space from TSMC and others, I mean, there's going to be an overhead because that company wants to make a profit, probably a little bit more than they're willing to allow you to do. But yeah, they did really well to get to 47%, and it's a good mix of semi-custom graphics has been up as of late. They have 2 new entries in the 7000 series that have been very well received, and the 7800 XT has been sold out pretty much since it was released, and we're only seeing now some availability. 7000 series have finally started to take off because we're seeing slightly less expensive motherboards, a little bit better, full featured products that are, under the $250 range. We also have DDR5 that has dropped dramatically in price since it was introduced. So their customer CPUs are selling well, and of course, their latest generation of EPYC is very strong. So while Intel made $279 million in net revenue, AMD made $224 million in net revenue, and that's a pretty extreme difference between the two companies historically speaking. So AMD did very well. Their outlook is not much more than this. It's a couple of percentage points, really. I mean, they're thinking 5.9 to 6.1 is what they're expecting. Q4 supposedly is, their most strong quarter, or anyone's strongest quarter. It's the holiday season. We're hearing things about, the PS5 is going to be selling like hotcakes, and they've got plenty of product out there to sell. So it's going to be interesting to see, where the market goes. Their ML 300, MI 300 series.
Mm-hmm. Instinct.
Anyway, the Instinct. That is their machine learning focused products with mixtures of GPU and CPU cores. And really an interesting looking product. And they're ecstatic about that bringing out. And they think that launch will be the product that goes quickest to $1 billion in revenue for them a quarter, which for AMD is huge. Yeah. And their FPGA stuff is, it took a little bit of a setback. I think it's dropped a couple $100 million. It's like $1.2 billion that the old Z-Links were making for them. So, but they're still expanding into that area.
I would also point out, it is very not like AMD to make statements like that about this is going to be our fastest product to $1 billion.
I've never heard them say anything like that.
Yeah,
ever. So obviously
that tells me there's a lot of confidence. Yeah. Qualcomm also did their earnings today, and just for sense of scale, their quarterly earnings. Let's see, where did I just see this?
8.2, 8.7.
8.6 billion in revenue and 1.4 billion in profit. So
that's some good living.
Yeah, I mean, if you just put that in comparison, right? It's more revenue than AMD, less than Intel, but more, net revenue than both combined. So
Christian runs a pretty tight ship.
Yeah, and they do the weird fiscal one too. So this was the end of their 2023. So they ended in $35.8 billion in total revenue and $7.2 billion in profit. So,
well, Nvidia's already on 2024, right? They're halfway through the next.
Yeah, so they're even a month different than. Yeah, I don't know why they do it that way, just to confuse me, I think. So
it had to do with their IPO and when they did it and.
We're going to talk about Apple again now.
Yeah, I don't know where this story came from, but the next thing on the list looks like it was typewritten.
Jeremy's
it's possibly a ransom
story,
note. Something about AV1, basically full support everywhere except Microsoft Edge, which makes no sense because if Chrome supports it, then why wouldn't Credge support it? But
it clashes with the skin that Microsoft put on it.
Oh, I see. Maybe there's a Bing bar compatibility issue. Maybe it's rendered differently.
I did think it was odd that the M3 part didn't support AV1 encode.
Just decode?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just decode.
I guess
did the A17 do encode? I bet it didn't.
Well, Apple has their own codecs.
Right, you're supposed to be using ProRes.
What am I going to use for my hot tub live streaming?
You have to have a second. You have to have a second PC. Sorry, Josh. If you're serious about hot tub live streaming, you're going to have to.
I heard that Intel Arc supports AV1, whatever that is. I did
in hardware, no less.
Quite good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Encode and decode. It's great for your sidecar PC.
Again, so does the 4000, the 40 series parts, right? So
this 4090, which is just out of frame. I don't know if it shows up when
it does not.
Slide it over here.
No, it does not. Oh, there it is.
Okay. Anyway, the 4090 that you can't see that I swear I have does dual AV1 encode decode.
Ooh,
because if you've got the power.
What's that? What do we have?
Is that a Zippo?
It's a G like
hot. That's hot.
It's a Zippo.
It's out of fuel.
Oh, okay.
You can refill those,
So many celebratory cigars that obviously. Were you lighting candles with that, Ryan? Don't light candles with a lighter. Come
on. No, the honest truth of it was
cigars.
When I was at the office, it became my fidget thing, and I would just sit here and do this all day. I bet it was frustrating as hell to everybody else just to do this.
I can't imagine why.
I mean, it annoys me now just hearing it back in my own headphones.
Yes, between that and playing Taylor Swift over your Amazon speaker, I'm sure that's.
Hey, the new version of 1989 is not as good as the original.
Of course, it's not.
Just didn't want to bring it up here. If that's something you guys have already talked through extensively.
It is significantly more profitable to the artist, though, which is really what it's all about.
It's that time of day again.
Security corner.
We need a security corner intro.
Yeah, we do. I'll get right on that. Security story number 1. Thousands of lazy admins helping to feed Citrix Bleed. That's kind of a bold statement, Jeremy. Lazy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, lazy. They've probably already applied the patch. As they did. You're supposed to apply the patch. But the thing is that they also specifically said you need to kill all active sessions. Because the actual token that exists right now is still vulnerable, and until you reestablish that session and get a brand new token, you're still vulnerable. Oops. And, well, as I lead out with it, you've always got that one app that depends on the persistent session. You have no frickin' idea what that password was. Or you've got that user that's, mission critical and runs off of a Citrix connection and just absolutely refuses to go through the whole official password reset and just gets really upset and keeps escalating and escalating. So when I say lazy, it's also not necessarily not necessarily derogatory, but yeah, the pain of dealing with them is a lot less than the pain of someone who has given themselves fully authenticated session on all of your Citrix devices or the things running Citrix and just romps around and does whatever. So we're talking 20 days since, actually more like 21 days now, since the notification and patch were released. There's at least over 5,000 unpatched machines found on a quick scan and at least 20,000 exploited servers. And just in case you're thinking they gave up because it's been patched and stuff, no. They bloody well know people aren't going to do this. So close to almost 200 IP addresses, all unique, are still searching for vulnerable servers. We're talking about stuff that's the backbone of corporate infrastructure that is still vulnerable on a huge chunk of servers. And the difference between the unpatched and the exploited suggests that, yeah, a significant amount of people said, you know what? It's not worth terminating their session. I don't want to have to go through this so they can get a brand new token.
Next, this is a story from Bleeping Computer. Hackers exploit recent F5 Big IP
It's big IP.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Big IP.
Roll that one back. Hackers. Never mind.
This is a bypass flaw that allows hackers to get through a very expensive routing switching firewall mechanism. This is one of those delicious ones where the security component is the one that's actually causing the problem. So there are a couple of score 9.8s and an 8.8 with an SQL injection and an authentication bypass flaw that allows hackers to seamlessly skate through your F5 big IP bought for your enterprise system so that it is nicely protected and traffic is shuffled back and forth and the bad guys are kept out. Oops, yet again, another security appliance suffering from a rather severe flaw. Mm-hmm. So pick up these patches if you're an F5 user in your enterprise, or ask about it by name. Hey, are we using an F5? Are we vulnerable to this 9.8 and this 8.8 CVE? Let's take a look at that more closely. Bad problems.
Still haven't run into F5, so I'm not quite sure.
I've known several.
Other than obviously,
I've been in several companies.
Okay, but yeah, it sounds like they're doing load balancing and that sort of thing, and probably what?
Mm-hmm.
What was that company that used to do? It'd detect large downloads and cache them locally. Riverbed. It sounds like it sort of fills into what that was doing.
I don't know.
I just haven't run into them before.
I can tell you that this one, that the hackers can kind of erase their tracks on this, so you won't even be able to tell if you've been infiltrated. So definitely, if you guys are running some F5 network gear, make sure that you're patched up on this one.
Yeah, they posted a script to the internet. You should just run it.
By the way,
that's what
welcome to all the people who had been watching the World Series, possibly. I guess that's over now. And we're up to 215 concurrent viewers.
I saw 218 a second ago.
It was, and then it dropped.
Oh, wow.
I didn't see it.
I did take off my pants.
Oh,
okay. All right.
Can you hold up your pants to prove this? Oh, he threw them behind him. They're out of reach. They're
yes.
You don't have
audio listeners.
The only thing in my office out of reach.
Wait, for the audio version, Josh is now shirtless. Just imagine.
Yes,
just letting you know.
Josh, you own a T-shirt that looks like you're shirtless. Can you put on like a muscle tee, but it's like a picture of like a body? No, okay.
They're out there.
I've seen them at ugly sweater parties.
Moving quickly to the final security element.
Yeah, update your Chrome if you're watching us.
You know what? That's pretty much
now.
That's pretty much the highlight of this, is that if you're watching this on Chrome, stop, go update it, and then come back. Chrome 119 patches 15 vulnerabilities, not particularly nasty vulnerabilities, but enough so that you should probably be concerned. Patch your Chrome this evening. And Chrome is one of those wonderful applications that's OS agnostic. So they're going to bring security vulnerabilities to any platform. Mac OS, Windows, Linux. You're all vulnerable to this. Go patch. Go.
Aren't you guys all using Edge now? Haven't you?
Well, but that's the best news. Edge doesn't have an outstanding update right now.
See,
they're always a little
probably
behind,
vulnerable,
but it's because they have to wrap it in their assistant.
Yes, to have AI first. Have to do AI.
None of these are like 9.8s or 9.9s. They're all like, you're probably just going to lose all of your data kind of thing. So,
like if you're running a Western Digital external SSD, you're going to lose all your data.
That.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cortana, can you ask Bing AI to find out what the Chrome mitigations are so that we can apply them to our browser?
Yeah.
By the way, I forgot to put that on the list. WD spinning off their SSD division. They're going to do spinning Rust and SSD, and they were going to merge with Kioxia, but then that fell through, and now maybe it's not going to fall through anymore. We'll talk about it next week.
Well, is that the credit card we want to see?
No, this is just a Delta bag tag. But it looks like a credit card. I've just been playing with it. No,
is it also aluminium?
It is. It is. It's very rigid. Like it would pass an iPhone bin test for sure.
Well, so is Josh right now, but I mean that's a different kind of rigid. All right. let's move to gaming quick hits, because why not? And check out Planet S, which is free Anno-like in space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you've played some of the... You must have run into the Anno series. Especially back, I think the newest one is Anno 1800. And arguably they did do one where you try to go on the moon. But this one went through on early access, and they released it, except it's still free. So you get the whole Anno experience, except you run into a system with about 14 procedurally generated planets. You got to pick one to land on. They've all got different resources and terrain. And from there, you're just doing your sort of standard RTS. It supports four-player multiplayer. Rock, Paper, Scissors said that the AI is a little bit not fun. They said it's limited. So I suspect you've got like really aggressive or really non-aggressive and not so much. But you're going to get your money's worth out of it because it's free. And you might mistake it for Planets, which is Planet capital S with no space between it. But that came in early access and it's free too. So try them both. Because why not? It's better than a demo. It's a full game.
And free. Free is the magic number.
Yes.
For me. Speaking of things to try out Alan Wake 2. Buy the game and then see if your hardware can run it. Or, lower the settings until it can. But,
boring.
We had this kind of discussion last week regarding, does this finally put the 1080 Ti to bed? And, I don't know.
Mesh shader support, Brett. You've got to have those mesh shaders.
Check this out.
Now,
look,
technically, no.
spec.
See, we were misinformed.
Yeah.
I noticed right after
this was
published
the
the podcast last week, there were some comments.
Agreed.
And yes, they were correct because we were going on developer information, which was subsequently retracted, and now they're like, well, technically you get a disclaimer, basically like you want to continue, you can do so with horribly reduced performance. So yes, if you want to run on a 1080 Ti at terrible frame rates, you absolutely can.
I don't know. Here we're having a minimum spec.
I don't know. Can a 1080 Ti even do it?
No ray tracing on a RTX 2060.
That has mesh shader support, though, Brett.
Okay.
That's the lowest spec GPU with mesh shader support from NVIDIA.
So the 1080p 60 ray tracing spec is a 4070, huh? Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
They don't even list an AMD GPU.
No, they don't. Once it goes up into ray tracing,
there might be a reason for that, but I'm not sure why.
If you've looked at some of the performance charts,
I don't see an arc on there.
I don't see an arc anywhere on this.
They actually have good ray tracing performance, actually, as we've mentioned before.
But if you look at how they specify CPUs, I think you'll find that somewhat interesting.
Yeah, but does Intel have Alan Wake 2 drivers yet? I don't think they do.
No, they fired all their driver guys.
Yeah.
So the way they spec a lot of CPUs are they write the AMD and then an Intel equivalent. They just
let's see. The last driver post on this great arc.intel.com page was from October 23rd, and it does list Alan Wake 2.
Oh, well,
okay,
that's good.
It does.
So what do you think, Ryan?
Yes,
that NVIDIA has actually released a 192-bit card at $900. The 4070 Ti. That's here. And the fact that you point out 192-bit is just means what?
That it's less than 256
low cost.
bits.
It's a small die. Your PCB complexity is lower.
Here's what 5 years in the belly of the beast has done to me. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
I don't think any of the specs matter. None of the specs matter. None of the numbers matter until you test the performance of that card in whatever game you're going to go test, right? So 192 bits or 256 bits, it doesn't matter unless we can prove that it is holding back that design in some appreciable way, right? Otherwise, they're just cost optimizing and they're yield optimizing to to get the most parts out into the world that they can make dollars on, right? Same thing back to like the M3 Pro and M2 Pro, right? They walked back the memory controller, but until you actually like measure the performance and see, hey, was there an architectural change of some kind in the GPU where it's, because of that GPU feature they introduced, it can be more efficient? Does it need that extra channel of memory? I don't know. Does the 4070 Ti underperform in any particular area?
Seems like it's a little weaker in 4K, as you'd somewhat expect.
Yeah.
Because it's really a 4060 Ti, really, is the problem.
But who cares? It's all 8K performance now.
I mean, the whole problem with NVIDIA this generation is you have the 4090 at the top, which is just a very impressive product, and they can charge whatever they want for it. It's the aspirational flagship part of the generation. Okay. Well, below that, they suddenly cut way down, and you get these much smaller GPUs with significantly reduced performance, starting at the 4080, which is $1,200. So it's very hard to accept for us enthusiasts.
I don't know how many they actually sold. I mean, I would love to get figure. I mean, they have sold them. I know somebody who bought two 4070 Ti.
I mean,
but
they're not selling out, but I bet they're selling.
Yeah.
I would buy one over a 4080. I guess that's the reason people are buying them, is that the 4080 just seems... Because really the 4070 Ti, that is the 4080. Because remember, they originally announced two 4080s. And that's just the rebranded 4080 12K.
I forgot about that. The unlaunch.
It's the mainstream 4080, and it sells like it. By the way, I pulled up Tech Power Up's review of GPU performance with Alan Wake 2. I've scrolled down to path tracing. Here's the disparity here. You have to go.
Heart rate.
What's that?
It's the most intense workload.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. If you're doing path tracing. Yeah. And that 1080p path traced, the 4090 gets you 86 frames per second. The 4070 Ti gets you 52.5. The 7900 XTX gets you 43. So, although I think since all the performance numbers went out, AMD has a new driver.
Okay, I was going to say that's why NVIDIA charges what they charge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's charts like this that keep them.
Yeah.
People buying.
It's all green for the first 5 bars of every chart here.
Where's ARC on this? Keep scrolling down.
Oh, yeah, it's down here. In the unplayable range. I would unless you like the cinematic look.
It's near the 3060. Okay.
Okay, yeah. That was the target, right? It was when it was announced. The A780, which did exist, I'm sure.
Yes, it did.
The A7, they were going to have a product that competed with the 3070. I thought that's what A770 was going to do, and then it didn't. So then it trades well with the 3060.
I could not say anything about those questions.
Okay, all right. Well,
that's fair.
Our next game in Gaming Quick Hits, Humble Bundle. Brett, I know you're responsible for this.
I know. I am.
Living in a simulation bundle? What's in here? Farming Simulator 19? Oh, yeah.
Firefighting, Builder Simulator.
What about Power Washing Simulator? Is that in here? Oh, nope. House Flipper. Oh, that's a depressing game.
The House Flipper is the Power Washer, sadly.
Did you see this? House Flipper has DLC, by the way, for the Luxury and Garden Edition.
Electrician Simulator.
An electrician that would really
electrocute yourself in the safety of your own home.
Do you have the option of working on the wires live instead of actually cutting?
You're never going to let me say the words. You're never going to let me say the word stimulating. But okay.
All right. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry for stepping on you in this segment.
I'm done. No, I'm
done. Now you're going to be like that.
I would also just like to point out I just want to point out to Jeremy that you absolutely can electrocute yourself in the comfort of your own home. Anyway,
yes,
you don't actually have to have the game.
You can virtually do it with this.
Okay,
well, you know how
there you go.
There's PC
as
hardware
opposed to
simulator.
Virtually electrocuting yourself when you're playing with a fuse.
Let us move to picks of the week. Josh, please get us started.
So this is a little off for me, and I don't know why I did it, but a friend of mine was he wanted a pre-built machine, didn't want to build something himself, but he had a very limited budget. And I started to dig around, and this came up, and it was shockingly inexpensive for what you get. You get a 550 watt power supply, 1 terabyte M.2. It's got the Ryzen 5 5600G. Now, it doesn't have a graphics card, but it is using just a retail type motherboard. So you can add one for $469 plus some more dollars off and a $50 promotional gift certificate. You can put a $400 video card in there, and you've got a smoking gaming system that's going to last you a long time. So, not the coolest case in the world, and it's going to be kind of small and that, but it can handle a pretty hefty video card that you add on there, and you've got a fantastic little machine for only $469, and plus whatever you decide to get for a graphics card, which I may say that you can get an RK770 for less than $300, which makes it an extreme value.
That's pretty damn good, because I went back to that depressing hellhole that is the hardware leaderboard today and actually redid the budget system. But I got to tell you, it is just depressing trying to do the hardware leaderboard right now, because the old prices, the $1,000 budget limit, I can blow that on a video card, and then there's the rest of the components. But no, there's actually a stupid deal right now on an RX 660 or 6600, non-XT. But for my pick, and you got to be watching right now because this is going quick. The Threadripper Pro. The Threadripper Pro up here in Canada, the 5965WX is $800 off, bringing it down to $2,400. Which is, for what it is, an actual reasonable price. Paying over $3,000 for this thing in Canada is a little bit much. But paying that much for 128 PCIe 4.0 is not a bad deal. So if you need a home workstation, go for it. If you don't, well, honestly, you're kind of wasting your money, but compared to the original ones, I mean, it's up to 4.5 gigahertz. These things have... Threadrippers are insane. 48 threads, all running at that, quite happy, and yes, it is a bit toasty, but when you need something to actually be able to handle serious workload at home, Threadripper is the way to go. When they first came out, and we're like, what is this? Is it a workstation? Is it a server? No, it's right in between, and it's still going.
My pick is for a couple of different users. Those who really don't want to fool around with a local security camera recording system, and for those people who are constantly having to post their security footage to any particular news site, or that a news agency has picked up a security footage from a local.
Where the hell are you living now?
Neighbor,
you're posting security footage regularly.
Just a moment. I'm not necessarily, but every time you look up a news story and you have to see security footage, it is the worst quality ever. Where are people finding these terrible cameras? For goodness sakes, update your hardware. This is a good opportunity to do that. Amazon has got this Blink system for 50% off. And the kicker on this is that there's a certificate that goes with this that allows you to get a discount on this for sending in your old hardware. So they've got a trade-in offer here, save an additional 20%. You don't need to sign in unless you want to tell us your password. But the point is that not only is this a reasonable new generation Blink camera system, you don't have to do local recording, very easy, reasonable resolution, and local camera control via the application on your phone. But it's an opportunity to get rid of that crap that you have stuck to your store or whatever, and get some reasonable cameras.
What's the quality like? You sound like a Blink owner.
I actually have used Blink cameras before. Okay. It's HD. And
what does that mean, though? 720, 1080? Is it full HD?
1080.
It's full HD? Okay.
It looks interpolated, but it's...
I mean, it looks like a simulated image here, if you want my opinion. Where's the notch? I don't see the notch on this iPhone that they're holding.
Seriously. That's definitely a simulated image. Although it is pretty good. It needs a lot of light. The third generation version that I've used works pretty good. It does illuminate in the darkness. These are supposed to be a little bit better with more less pixelated or a better sensor. So this looks like a reasonable upgrade for 4th gen. Then they're allowing you to send in your old stuff for a 20% discount.
Would they take like an old Logitech 920?
I hope so.
Anything. Yeah, just send them an old. Oh, actually,
Send it.
I have the camera for the trade-in. Hold on.
But seriously, every time you see a local newscast where you're looking at here's video footage of the perpetrators, you're like, is that even people? Yeah. What is this?
How appropriate?
320?
How appropriate with a former Intel employee here. I will send
it's like
in
320
this,
by 240.
This Intel Pocket camera.
Those are clearly being used by a lot of retail outlets.
Take it anywhere, it says. Are you looking for a PC camera on the go? Pick up the flexible Intel Pocket PC camera, which provides high-quality pictures and video, whether it's tethered to your computer or in the palm of your hand. And I'm going to take this bad boy out of the package and take some... I think the next review will feature photos taken with this this camera.
Maybe that should be your camera facing...
and you can
That's
take
my
them
pick
anywhere.
of the week, right there. But Ryan, you have a pick.
I do. It's lighter fluid to fill that fidget device.
Oh, okay. So we'll actually get a flame next time. That's good.
Yeah. Next time
Ryan.
I'll make sure it has fuel.
Excellent.
20-some years later, Colleen is still making us pick something every week somehow.
You can bury the whole segment if you want. To me, it's fun.
Hey,
I get to scroll through all my Amazon orders.
You suggest
It's so fun.
Makes you think, Jeremy, every week.
Yeah,
Every week.
I got plenty of things that do that.
I could trade in my first generation Ring video doorbell, and it gets me 20% off that camera and $10 gift card.
dude.
That's right. Yes.
Do it.
What a deal.
And my favorite part about all of those wire-free security systems is that anybody with a cheap Wi-Fi jammer can just break your whole home security system as they walk by your house.
True.
It's like, I have the Wi-Fi jammer, so I'm going to do all sorts of things to your property and I'm going to break your car windows.
You know what? Footage. They're probably targeting you. So you probably...
It's just the delivery drivers. The Amazon drivers typically do Wi-Fi jamming and some of the other ones too, actually. No.
Oh, my God.
All right. Well, thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm sure at some point we ended the show, but just to make it official, thanks for listening, watching, and we'll do it again next week, probably. We're going to do a whole theme like airplanes and
748. That's my favorite other plane.
Josh with his arm.
No, pointing to the.
What do you do with your arm? This is a very odd angle.